Well, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg. The visit is part of a diplomatic push to bring an end to the war with the U.S. and Israel. President Putin has pledged to do everything in the interest of Iran and to halt the Middle East war. Abbas Araghchi began a regional tour on Friday with stops in Pakistan, Oman, and other Gulf countries.
As witnessed by the whole world, the Iranian people, by their resilience, resistance and fortitude, stood their ground in the face of the Israeli-American aggression, and we will be brave through this trial.
All right, we have correspondents covering this story for us from Moscow and Tehran, and that is where we begin with Ali Hashem. So, Ali, the meeting between Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian foreign minister, and the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, it's now wrapped up. What do we know exactly about what was discussed?
Well, clearly what we know is that Abbas Araghchi conveyed a message from the Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mujtaba Khamenei to the Russian President Vladimir Putin. This is very significant. As for other issues related to the meetings, of course, it's mainly focused on the next steps, on the situation currently and what's going on. It's also focused on the proposed, or let me say, potential talks between the United States and Iran. Russia had several ideas on the table. Foreign Minister Lavrov spoke to Abbas Araghchi days ago and showed readiness for Russia to play this role in conveying messages or in bridging gaps between Iran and the United States. Also, Iran and Russia are strong partners. We always have to remember that when the war started, Russia was among the countries that showed support to Iran, and this was also stressed during the United Nations Security Council meetings when there was a decision against Iran. The Russians and the Chinese both used the veto. And of course, for the background, when the Russians started the war in Ukraine, also Iran was one of the countries that supported Russia, and it was widely reported that the Iranians exported part of their drones to the Russians. Of course, the Iranians have been denying this, but then this was one of the issues that has been always reported in this regard. So what we are witnessing is just that Iran and Russia are stressing their relation, and probably this also will have to do with any possibility of resumption of war, because at the end, Russia and Iran have their own cooperation in the defensive side now. There's no clear reports whether the Russians have been exporting or providing the Iranians with any kind of technology, but there have been a lot of reports in this regard.
Okay, let's bring in Yulia Shapovalova, who's with us from Moscow. So, Yulia, I wonder what the Russians are saying publicly about what their role is, or what they want maybe their role in this conflict to be.
Well, it's not an easy one, to be honest, but what we've just heard was just the tip of the iceberg, because we heard just something what was meant for journalists. Vladimir Putin stated that the people of Iran are heroically fighting for their sovereignty, that Russia hopes that the Iranian people will overcome this really hard period of time, and that peace will prevail. And he also noted that Russia will do everything possible to ensure peace in the Middle East as soon as possible, while, according to Abbas Araghchi, the relations between Moscow and Tehran represent a strategic partnership and will be strengthened. And of course, the two are very, very close together. And of course, everyone is interested whether Russia supplies weapons to Iran, but the Kremlin, as we know, has denied many times these weapons supplies to Iran, despite the comprehensive partnership agreement between the two, because it is actually aimed at strengthening military cooperation between the two countries and includes security and defense, but it excludes the formation of a military alliance. Apart from that, everything is possible, and it's not prohibited. But Despite Moscow is denying the weapons supplies, according to Western intelligence, Russia has agreed with Iran on the supply of drones to the country and also on sharing data on targets for strikes on U.S. military facilities. And of course, the negotiations are continuing right now, and hopefully later on we'll learn more about the discussions that have been taking place in St. Petersburg. But of course, the two countries have been in contact since the beginning of the war, and Moscow says it is ready to contribute to the settlement of the conflict and to contribute to the search for solutions by political and diplomatic means.
Yeah, and Ali, look, it's so hard to know where we're at in terms of the state of the negotiations between Iran and the United States to actually end this conflict. We're having to kind of read the tea leaves on the travels of Abbas Araghchi and what that might tell us. Do we know where the Iranian foreign minister is going to go next and what that might tell us?
Well, what we know is that this visit is going to be wrapped in Russia. He'll be back in Tehran as of probably this evening. However, this is an issue that should be taken into consideration when we see the whole picture, the bigger picture. There is a point where it seems the previous negotiations that were taking place in Pakistan came to a situation of, let me say, redefinition. They're redefining the talks. Because what we understood yesterday is that the Iranians have conveyed a new paper with new conditions. And this is on the contrary to the whole narrative that was being pushed by President Trump, that he is in control of this whole situation. The Iranians are trying to say we are also in control because they are putting right now certain conditions. Well, whether the President of the United States is going to accept to talk about these issues or not, that's another matter. What the Iranians now are saying that they do not want to talk nuclear. They do not want to talk the sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. All what they're ready to talk about right now is ending the war, compensations, guarantees the war is not going to be resumed or restarted, and unblocking the strait without giving any other guarantees or any other commitments. What does this mean? What the Iranians are trying to do right now is to just show that they are not in a hurry, that they are not going to be dragged into President Trump's game, and at the same time, they are putting the rules of engagement their own way on the table. But at this could be seen as a negative sign. The positive sign here is that what the Iranians are trying to also do is to say, well, there are some easier steps that we can start with. We can talk these issues that are bridgeable. They're not big gaps. And then when there is a deal, the war is over, we have a trust-building measure that's in place, then we can go to other steps such as the nuclear, the Strait of Hormuz, and whatever's left on the list.
All right, let's see if they can get past step one here. All right, Ali Hashem for us live in Tehran, and Al Jazeera's Yulia Shapovalova for us there in Moscow. Thank you both.